Hello again. We're doing the midpoint formula this time, and midpoint just means the middle of a specific distance from one spot to another. So again, I usually have a wiffle ball. In my classroom when I describe this, and I usually call a student to come up to the classroom and then I ask them. It's kind of like a cool little project idea that I do. And I throw the wiffle ball at the person, they throw it back at me. And I ask my class where the middle is, and I have students that say, well, it's in the middle of both of you. And then I start throwing it different on purpose, like, oh, okay, where's the middle? And they say, it's the same spot. I'm like, no, it's not. If we're talking about this midpoint, we're talking about both the horizontal middle and the vertical middle of two specific objects. So again, if I were to take a wiffle ball and throw it as high as I could down to the bottom of your screen, the middle wouldn't be between me and the camera. It'd be between, the horizontal distance would be the middle, but the vertical distance would be the middle between the top of my hand and the bottom of the screen, which on anybody's screen I guess could be different. So when you account for midpoint, from an object to another object, you've got to account for both the horizontal middle and the vertical middle. And that's what's really cool. Now some of you might be able to throw in a conjecture and say, well, isn't the middle like right here? And I say, well, if I drew it correctly, I suppose it would, but you can't really trust my approximations because they're not perfect. So we're going to find out exactly where the middle is. Now that's my guess, just looking at it, but I honestly don't know where it is. Well, yeah, I probably don't actually, so never mind. So let's find out. Now what I tell my students is this: when you're finding the middle, it's just like taking an average. Add up two things, divide by 2. Add up two things, divide by 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to add our x values first. -3 plus 1, just follow the formula, and divide it by 2, and add up our y values and divide by 2. So that's 2 plus -1, and divide by 2. Now, one thing I have to preface before we continue with this, there are students who are very calculator reliant on this. What I would say is, try not to be if you don't have to, but if you are, notice that if you substitute these into your calculator, you're probably going to get them wrong because you didn't put parentheses around the numerator. So watch out for that. So -3 plus 1 is -2. -2 divided by 2 is -1. 2 plus -1 is 1. 1 divided by 2 is 1/2 or 0.5. I'm going to leave it as a fraction. I wouldn't mark it wrong if somebody put 0.5, but maybe a different teacher would. So you always got to watch out for that. And your point is at -1, comma, half. And hey, yeah, but my graph wasn't drawn right. If it was drawn right, then the line would have intersected right there, slightly above where my green line is. But as you can see, that's midpoint, median distance. We're going to work on rational expressions, rational equations, which is the bane of many students. By that I mean that they find it very difficult. You know, in my opinion, if you don't know how to factor very well, that's where the problems come in. It's not adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, or finding. Well, LCDs are kind of difficult too, but you have to really know how to factor. And when we do those lessons, I'm going to assume that you're already looking at factoring, you can factor, and we're going to go through. And I'm just going to, you know, my point of teaching that is not going to sit there and factor with you. It's going to be to add, subtract, multiply, and divide properly with rational expressions. So make sure you're caught up on your factoring when you end up doing that. For right now, have a great day. Goodbye.